Causicus became deathly ill, drenched in sweat, hives, and racked with convulsions. Hippothous had never known sickness and was gravely disturbed. Causicus's parents, out of pity, explained how they were afraid of such a thing happening. Purposes and meaning explained that their kind can only give birth to sons of Causicus's kind. Yet, when they come of age, if they are not free, they die a long and torturous death and give rise to a disease and plague that infect all the lands. The rite of passage is one of coming to know one's being and must be prepared for. The initiate must be readied, or it is certain death. But the initiation of being readied also brings on the illness. The only way of quenching the fire of being in Causicus's flesh, which will surely encompass the doom of all the realm of societies and democracies, spreading first to us, purpose, meaning, and hypothesis, and then the very mechanisms of the brothers Hithrosis and practical theory, is to bring him to the throne of the triplicities. Now, the triplicities, the goddesses variety, multiplicity, and thriving, are scattered hither and thither throughout the world, and only two brothers can gather them to our call, that these three may ferry us to the yonder shore where their throne is enshrined. These two brothers are of the most noble stock, but are tormented by the ever-hungry ghost's selfishness. They are Uniculus and Individualis. The four of us, hypothesis, purpose, meaning, and cause, in the throes of being, must yet free of these mechanisms of your tyrant brother's practical theory, and begin the sacred journey to find the noble brothers which will lead us to the goddess's triplicity through an adventure of our destiny. Hippothous could only think of one person who might help, his sister, Luxurious. Being her father's, Democritus's, favorite, she might be able to influence the mechanisms of her brothers, that the four could find a way out of the mechanisms. Hippothous, with purpose and meaning, dedicated themselves to freeing the golden child Causicus, threatening to destroy their world in his struggle with being. Through finding the goddesses' multiplicity, variety, and thriving, with the help of the brothers Individualis and Uniculus, if, that is, they can quell these brothers' selfishness. When hearing of the plight of the world, Luxurious had no qualms and began meddling in her brother's affairs and hiding in superbly the luxurious cost of doing business. The brothers Practicalis and Thorosus fell easily under their sister's spell, as did the whole aristocratic family, seeing themselves as they did as leaders of their supposed free world. Hear now for the telling of how the brothers Tyrannus came to be as they are. Their mother, Societas, was as a maiden called Society. When she was betrothed upon Democritus, she took on, as all noble maidens do, the spiritus of her betrothed possessed, and this, namely, was Democritus's father's spirit, Politico. Being that Society was born of her mother, Religio, when they performed the solemn covenant of the marriage, the mixing of the Politico and Religio, gave form to the spiritus economic. One might ask why Hypothesis, or for that matter Luxurious, were of a different ilk of their elders Sib, Thorosus, and Practicalis, as in all things bathed in time, to which the staff of Hypothesos was to churn in its cauldron of universalis, in due process, an unfoldment, a mellowing, the procession, transpires whereby the god differentiationist holds sway over the productions of time. The four siblings were all stems of the one tyrant plant, inspirited as it was by Religio and Politico, through which they sprang forth from Society and Democritus. But in flux were these living beings, the change of time. So it was, as it were, the maturing aspects of the parents were observed in the change of the offspring. Yet, as so often happens in any new beginning, the new is brought with a striving of control of the unmitigated forces and the masses they give rise to. Thorosus and Practicalis were fated as the first to construct mechanisms that fulfilled the fresh and new union of their parents. The arising of the tyrannical aspect in these two eldest sons, however, found its roots from whence it sprang, like grizzled in the flesh, in the power struggle of their parents, newly wed, and the spirits of which they both were possessed. In societies and democracies, possessions of religio and politico, respectively, society struggled to influence democracies, leaving her attentions of her children to also be used to influence their father. Hypothesis nor Luxurius were influenced by this, not having been born yet. They came in the second phase in this noble couple's great union. So the Tyrannus brothers sought for their father's praise, not being properly unbound by their mother.